Are we good, Patrick?
Melissa? So you're ready to do the,
Okay.
you're ready to text Jackie at the right moments?
Is everybody?
Sorry, she's locked out. We're okay. We're gonna navigate.
It's so much easier to read. Or do you want me to wait? You can start. Oh, 2 minutes? Yeah.
Once you're ready.
I only see what you're
No, he has it, Doug's got it. Yeah, you could open up.
where's the
Oh, wow.
I only see the
Sorry, did you say we're voting on the plan? Or no?
You do,
The public hearing on
yeah,
the
for,
but not now. Okay.
yeah, it's under 3D.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So appointment.
A and B have to switch. Yeah, because you can't be double.
Well, we could do public, it's live now. Patrick, are we live?
Is it okay if we start? So I'll separate it.
just make sure. You see what I'm saying?
But usually we both.
Well,
Okay, so I'll do it separately. Okay. Should I start?
Yes, cool.
It's okay? All right. Okay, yeah.
Gavels and,
So we're
gavels and-
restarting the, going back to the public session for the Board of Education meeting. Sorry. The first thing we have is the public hearing on the district-wide safety and emergency management plan. Does anybody have any comments on number 2?
that would be,
No? Okay, moving on. Now we're going to the opening of the meeting, the bittersweet part of the meeting, which is the retirement recognition. So for the teacher's retirement, I would like to turn it over to Bill.
so we're going to call to the mic 2 retirees who are here tonight. We'll start with Adele Gorman, and I think Amy Kazis is going to speak for Adele. Do I have that correct? Yeah. So you'll come to the mic, and we're hoping that Adele, you will come stand next to Amy. So, microphone on deck.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. It is my honor to speak on behalf of Adele Gorman, our much-loved teaching assistant. Well, that is her official title, but we all know that Adele carries many more titles than that, perhaps the most popular being energetic Hillside greeter. I can recall the first time that I visited Hillside School many years ago. Adele was wearing a floral blouse with flowing sleeves. It was a beautiful spring day, and as she waved me on and welcomed me to the building, I knew that Hillside was special. Adele exudes warmth and joy in interacting with everyone who visits our school. Whether she is in the circle or on our new driveway supervising outdoor morning recess, you are guaranteed to see Adele welcoming students, staff, and families to school, always ready to share a smile, a laugh, a suggestion, a direction, and maybe even a little bit of history about Hillside. You see, Adele was hired in September of 2001 as a teacher aide for Farragut Middle School and Hastings High School, and 2 years later at Hillside, where she has worked in every grade level. But even before that, she spent time at Hillside as a parent. Adele's children all attended Hillside, so Adele knew the job before it was officially hers. In fact, she served as the PTSA vice president, so Adele's willingness to go above and beyond for children began way before her initial date of hire. Adele graduated from Elizabeth Seton College and went on to study at SUNY New Paltz and SUNY Purchase. Prior to working for the Hastings and Hudson schools, Adele was an independent computer consultant and a manager of a retail store on Main Street, the Family Tree Boutique. There's no doubt her background and experience have contributed to her excellence as a teaching assistant and colleague. Can always count on Adele for feedback. Adele is the first to celebrate our success. Those of you who watched our National Blue Ribbon Week kickoff definitely know what I mean, as Adele stole the show with our staff mob dance. And she is also the first to recognize a problem, brainstorm solutions, and then execute the best plan forward. Her commitment to children, to our school, and to our community is unmatched. Adele has worked with many teachers over the years, and they shared some words with me to help you get a glimpse of how integral Adele is to our work at Hillside. Rachel Pilla and Katrina Forbes, third grade teachers, shared the following. Adele is a dedicated, passionate, and hardworking professional. She always goes above and beyond for our students and for any teacher she works with. She makes the curriculum come alive by her dramatic gestures and voices. For many years, Adele was the go-to person to read aloud to the students because of her animated presence. Listening to Ms. Gorman's stories were the highlight of our students' day. She has a great sense of humor and could find the positive in any situation. She is not only our colleague, but our friend. We will miss her larger-than-life presence at Hillside. Adele equals Hillside. So that was just two teachers, but I'm going to share a little bit more with you. Michelle Campbell and Dana Finsmith, second grade teachers, wrote an acrostic poem about Adele with an anecdote for each letter of her name. We are elementary, so of course there's always creativity. A stands for always meticulous. When she sees a concern or a problem, she fixes it no matter who she needs to speak to, go through, or do. She meticulously makes sure that problem is corrected. D stands for dedicated. No matter what position or role she has played in Hastings, she has kept the students a priority. She's worked across all grade levels and, most importantly, has taken her role as circle drop-off coordinator seriously and has revolutionized the way it runs. E stands for eccentric. Adele is a jack of all trades. She's worked in the business world and then found a love and passion for the teaching world. She also has some major rhythm on the dance floor. L stands for loyal. She has been a community member in Hastings, has sent her 3 children through the district who are now extremely successful, frequently supports the local restaurants, and has worked 22 years here. And finally, E, eco-friendly. Adele has taken time to label each garbage bin in our classroom and hold lessons on the importance of recycling for each and every student. She makes the world a happier and healthier place. While Liz loved her time at Hillside, she recently shared with me that the timing for retirement is right. She is leaving us on a high note and ready to enjoy the next phase of her life with her wonderful husband, Drew, and children, Vince, Steve, and Maggie. Adele, you have touched so many lives. Your kindness toward children, your support of faculty, staff, and administration, and your love for our families and Hillside community are parting gifts that will forever be remembered. We will miss you tremendously and wish you all the best, health, laughter, and adventure as you begin this next chapter. Congratulations. And on behalf of the district, the certificate of retirement proudly awarded to you, Adele Gorman.
So if I could bring up the music, if I could sing, if I could be a percussionist, if I could play a violin, I would play the violin for Adele, and I'd play my trumpet for Mike Rubino. So Mike Rubino, please come to the mic, and I think other performer in retirement will go to the mic, and she'll introduce herself. We put art with art this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Mike, big night for you this evening. I have the pleasure of recognizing Mike Rubino as both a music teacher extraordinaire and as the music department chairperson since 2000, is what I hear. That's amazing. Mike has been a Hastings educator since 1991 after completing a music performance degree at Berklee College of Music and attaining a master's in music education from Manhattan College. In addition to teaching thousands of children in his time in Hastings, he has contributed significant leadership to the overall program, and that includes jazz band, arts and education, 6th grade musical, elementary play director, middle school play director, hillside dance director. We have to talk about that one. High school musical, hillside band. One of Mike's colleagues, Mr. Day, noted that Mike is known and loved by students and colleagues for his great sense of humor, which I can certainly attest to. Thank you for that. He gets students hooked on music by creating a fun and slightly mischievous atmosphere in the classroom. I can also attest to that. Mike has worked in all 3 schools in Hastings, teaching everything from kindergarten general music all the way to high school AP music theory, and has worn many hats, including running a Motown band. Mike's passion extends beyond life outside of his teaching role. He is a prolific jazz saxophonist who toured extensively with Buddy Rich and the Buddy Rich Big Band before teaching, and still performs regularly. He has played in many bands. Another of Mike's colleagues, Mr. Riss, adds that Mike is an amazing player. He is a woodwind specialist, but saxophone is his fave. He also doubles on clarinet and flute. I think we call that a triple threat, perhaps? Okay. It takes a trained musician to really know how good he is. He doesn't boast, he doesn't brag, he just plays. He just makes music. I would be remiss not to recognize Mike as the go-to person to bring joy to superintendent's conference day kickoffs and other faculty gatherings by arranging opportunities for students to perform live. And this has been an immense gift to everyone in this district. Thank you. Thank you for your incredible dedication to the students, to your colleagues, and to the entire music program. And of course, once I heard the acrostic poem, I had to quickly write one. So, Mike, you are a marvelous educator. You are innovative. You kickstart students' creativity, and you are ever ready to make a difference. So I'd like to thank you very much for all that you do in your department chairperson role. It has been a pleasure to work most closely with you, and I really appreciate the candor, the levity, and all of the intensity that you bring to the table in thinking about how to move the system with what's best for students. So I really want to thank you for that, and congratulations.
Thank you to the 2 people who are here, and to everybody who's retiring. We thank you for all of your service to Hastings. Very much appreciated. And now we're going on to the Board of Education recognition. And I like that this is the recognition of non-returning Board of Education trustees, not the retirement of the trustees, because we know one of our trustees is coming back, so we're very excited. Once a trustee, always a trustee, Doug, you better be careful. So we have two trustees who are leaving us. First, I'd like to talk a little bit about Doug. So Doug started in 2016, and I bet you thought those were the hard times, Doug, until COVID hit, and then you knew what the real hard times were. So I think that what's amazing is that you managed to weather it, go through the storm, and then come out the other side. And I know each one of us wants to say something about you and your impact on us and the board. But for me, I just want to say that, as soon as I was thinking about running, you were so kind and answered all my questions, and I had many questions, and you spent a lot of time with me, and still managed to make it sound like something fun I should do. So thank you for that. But I really appreciate everything you've done. I don't know what we're going to do without you on the board. You're our go-to person who has all of the history, who knows everything, who corrects us. Tonight I'm going to need you because I don't know what I'm doing without Alex here. So, we're going to miss you so much. I am definitely going to miss your wisdom and your ideas and your thoughts, and you always bring something to the table. And I'm disappointed that you're not going to be here any longer, but you know I'm going to continue to call you and ask you questions and ask for help. So thank you so much for your time. Does anybody else?
Thank you, Doreen.
I also want to thank you, Doug. You were one of the first people that I spoke to about whether to do this, and you made it. You were always very calm, and we certainly look to you for what are we supposed to do on the protocols. You're the person that's the most seasoned, and you have a really great way of kind of bringing different opinions to bear and bringing us to consensus, and you'll be sorely missed.
Thank you, Maureen.
So, Doug, I had the pleasure of serving with you during the COVID days, those fun days. And I especially want to say that I just really appreciate your ability to synthesize particularly complex issues and always keep our eyes on the prize, because I think particularly when times are very trying, it's easy to be distracted from the work at hand, which is essentially to do the district's business in service of all the various stakeholders. And one thing that you've always done is to say, we need to do what's best for the system, and to always actually bring the professionalism that you expect for yourself and that you champion in your private life as a personal citizen. And I know that since you started serving on the board, 7 years ago, you've always made that front and center for our work. And it's hard. It's especially hard when the times are grueling, when there's so many things that are constantly coming in at you. You just always have an ability to stop in the middle of what you're doing and say, guys, this is what we need to focus on. And I think that you don't let us drift because, as human beings, we have those inclinations to kind of think of things from our own perspective. And the fact that you always prioritize how we make this a better district in service of students, in service of staff, in service of our administration, you've really brought this district a long way to a really good place. And I'm so grateful to you as a parent in this district, as a colleague of yours. And I think that, the institutional knowledge that you've brought and that you've built up over your time here, it just can't be replicated. Thank you so much. I will say, as a friend, I will miss you dearly. I appreciate your wisdom and your insight, and I will be calling you.
Thank you, Sylvia.
I know I said mine last week, so I'm going to repeat it again. Oh, am I on? Okay. Okay. So, Doug, he has been very good at using his organizational abilities to help me, because I've spoken to him many times on how I wanted certain things to come out, and then he would literally work through it with me. And I'm very grateful for that. I remember there was a difficult moment that everybody wanted to make it personal. And for me, that was the movement part, and I shared it with him, where he was about letting everybody understand that it's the issues we are debating, it's the issues we are deliberating, and not the individual. And for that, I'm grateful, because as a person of color, it's very easy to people to just easily point out that way, and he was very emphatic. And I saw how every time when it was getting in a bad place, you would say, guys, right? it's not about the individual, it's about what we are talking about. And I already told him, organizational, like it's not over for you, you know that, right? So we've already spoken about borrowing that knowledge that you come with, that helping the organizational aspect of things. And I know you'll be hearing from us. I told you that already, so I'm just repeating it publicly. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Damaris. I appreciate it.
So, Doug, you have a great phrase, strong ideas loosely held, which you use with me a lot. And you were my first president here, and I know Alex wouldn't mind me saying you may be my only president here. And I appreciate that, because that phrase says, Bill, give us a sense of where we're going, please, but listen. Be ready to collaborate, be ready to share, be ready to listen, be ready to back down. So it's a phrase I'm going to always remember, Doug. And I've just been lucky in my life to work with great, great leaders, and you're on that short list. So that is a strong idea, strongly held. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, let me just say just two quick words here. I don't know if someone else wants to say anything or not, but first of all, it's great that I'm in such great company tonight with Adele and Mike and others here. It really makes me appreciate why. Just to see an evening like tonight with someone like Adele, who I've seen smiling at me for so many years now, and Mike, who's taught my children. I know Shy at least. I can't remember. I lose track of what the other ones played, but and just the energy that you've brought to all the performances. This is it's like I was sitting here thinking that's why I do this is because of this excellence. So I just want to thank everyone in the community. I want to thank everyone on the board. Bill, you've been here for 2 years. That's great. That's so far my record for a superintendent. And hopefully for many more. And thank you to everyone on the board for being great colleagues. I really appreciate everything that I could go through and tell stories about all of you, but that would take a long time. And I want to really specifically thank also Maureen Caraballo for, it's like she and I, like she knows where all the bodies are hidden. I know where a fair amount of the bodies are hidden at this point. And Melissa, your ability to step in and really be a great member of this team. I think the last thing I'll say is that I think running a school district is a team effort, and I've just been really happy to be a part of this team. And Melissa Delabrere, we didn't work as closely as I did with Janine, but you've been an excellent addition as well, so thank you. Thanks for everything. Appreciate it. And this isn't the last you see of me. I'll be around. Perhaps with a freer mouth at some point. I don't know. We'll see.
We expect to see you at the public comments. And speaking of seeing at the public comments, unfortunately, Jeremy couldn't come tonight, but I just wanted to recognize Jeremy as well. He also is an amazing colleague. What I really appreciate about Jeremy is that he always lets me think of things in a different way than I had before. And I think that is something that's really important on this board. I love having a board where we all have a lot of similar ideas, but sometimes it's important to have differing ideas. And Jeremy has been so dedicated to the board and really cares about the school and the district. And so I just want to, I'll tell him myself, but Jeremy, thank you so much for everything you did on the board. And then, go ahead. So no, please say something.
I would just say something about Jeremy. Before I joined the board, I already was like, oh, Doug, I like what he says. And with Jeremy, I told myself, I'm going to fight this dude coming here. And I just grew to, it didn't take long, and most of you know this, that I realized that there's no phoniness with him. He's just, what you see is what you get. And as much as my own philosophical ethos are things that he doesn't carry, like my colleague here said, I really like his looking at things from another lens other than what you may be looking at. And I know he deeply cares for the district. He deeply cares for the community like all of us, and he will also be very much missed as well. But he's not here for us to clap for him. But if he's listening to us, thank you, Jeremy, for serving as well.
And then I have a recognition of a non-returning Board of Education student. You're not on the list, but we have to talk about Gus. You know, you've been with us for 2 years, really. You know, we started and you started at the same time, so like you're my person, Gus. And you're just such an amazing person, Gus. First of all, what you do in school, you're such a leader, and what you offer, I hope you understand what you offer to our board every time you're here, every time you talk. It's always so important. You really make us remember that we're here for the students, and you have such an eye on what not just you think or what your friends think, but what the entire student body is thinking, and you're always pushing us and giving us ideas, and I very much have appreciated everything you've done, and I know that the dedication to this is, you know, just as strong for you as it is for us, and you put so much time and effort, and you've given so much to the school, and I'm so proud of you, and I really hope you have an amazing experience at Yale, and they're so lucky to have you, and I hope you come back to us and, you know, visit some of our meetings sometimes, but I can't wait to see where you go, Gus. You're an amazing kid, and I'm so happy that you were on our board.
Do any other board members want to say anything about Gus? Because I would like to say something quickly about Gus, and then, well, I'll let you be the final word.
Okay, sure.
All right?
I would say something.
Oh, well, then go ahead.
I just want to say that I have observed Gus from a distance. And you're a deep listener, because I know that there are a lot of things that I wasn't sure, and I would just whisper it, and I see that you hear it. And you've been really emphatic in taking care of all of our students. And that is a tremendous leadership. You are smart, you are beyond your years, literally beyond your years, and you're a born leader. And I cannot wait to see what you're going to do for the United States of America. So thank you so much. Please keep it up.
So I've had the opportunity over many years to have students come and ask me to write them a letter of recommendation, and I rarely do it unless I know the student, and I know Gus. So I did write for Gus, and a couple months ago I shared the letter with Gus after he got in someplace. I'm having a little fun with you, sir. Someplace in New Haven, I think. Yale. It's Yale, right? Yeah. So anyway, I'll be quick. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but the feature was you put together intellectual rigor, compassion, and joy such as I've almost never seen. Intellectual rigor with brilliant communication. That was the headline there. I won't give you the details. Compassion, working for others constantly. I won't give you the details there. But I will here. Joy, the glue that binds. As I was finishing this letter, I wanted a hook. And a parent came to me, not knowing I was writing a letter about you, and wrote, what stands out about Gus is the joy that he brings to everyone else and that binds people. This parent said, what makes Gus rare, so special, is that he is there with a big smile, encouragement, and cheers for each of the 40-plus runners on the team. This is cross country. No matter how good they are, his spirit is the glue that binds that team together. So no matter how good we are or not as a people, how best we can get to our better angels or not, you're holding us together, Gus. Thank you.
And I'll keep this short and sweet, but Gus, I need to say thank you for being a leader both inside and outside of the classroom. Thank you for showing your compassion every day. Thank you for showing me the ropes, and thank you for being my person for the past year.
Any words, Gus?
I was going to save it for the end of the report, but I'm happy to do it now. Thank you for all of you for those kind words, and I will hope and work really hard to sort of live up to them. I'm so lucky to have gotten to sit in on these meetings for the last 2 years. It's been such a learning experience to get to see so many different models of leadership, and I feel like I've gotten a real sense of what I want to be like as I sort of move into college and beyond that, and you have been such role models for me. I wrote about that to Dr. McCursey. I could go on and on and on, but really, there's a lot that I've learned from all you guys, and so thank you. And I'm so lucky to, have been a part of this district, to get to be in classes with so many teachers who are out there since I was in kindergarten, and I felt like this might be a good way to try and give back a little, and this has been an amazing experience. And I don't feel like it's nearly enough. There's so much more I'd like to do, but I'm so grateful to have gotten to be here with all of you for the last 2 years, and I'm excited to see, what you all do next. And you guys have a really strong person coming up in Kai. So just thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you.
Thanks again to everyone. And as some people leave, some people come. And so we have some, next item is FMS interim principal appointment.
So in the materials that are about to be posted publicly will be my recommendation that Mr. Scott Wynn be appointed as the FMS interim principal for Farragut Middle School. The materials that will be posted, and assuming the board endorses this recommendation, we'll be having information going out almost immediately, first to the FMS staff, because they deserve to read about Mr. Wynn first, and then to the entire Hastings community very shortly thereafter. And then Mr. Wynn is already committed to joining us virtually tomorrow morning to say hello to the FMS staff, and then as much as possible be greeting people. Mr. Wynn comes to you, board, and community, from a very competitive process. Over 35 people applied for this position, the interim position. Some 9 were looked at very, very closely by several of us. From that group of 9, 4 went to an advisory committee that reviewed those 4 quite thoroughly and seriously. We did do virtual interviews. The packet that will go out will show all the questions asked at these various stages, so you understand who was involved. Also, the advisory committee is listed, so the community can see the great seriousness with which we reviewed all the candidates. And Mr. Wynn shown it was a win-win. You've probably heard that before in your life. I'm sorry. I'm not very original. But it was truly a great win for us to have Mr. Wynn recommended here. So, board, I'm very proud and pleased to bring to you the recommendation that Scott Wynn will be the interim principal for Farragut Middle School effective July 1, 2023. But this is now your decision.
Now is when we vote, right? We're voting here.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of Scott Wynn as the FMS interim principal?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. No one told me that acrostic poems were the theme of the evening. Otherwise, I would have had one for Hastings, but I will be sure to make one for the next time that I stand in front of you. In my 20-plus years in education, I have been blessed that 2/3 of that time has been spent in middle school as a middle school teacher, as a middle school AIS provider, as a department chair, as a dean of students, as an assistant principal, and as a middle school principal. And I can say that while many, many people run from middle school, I I really am drawn back to it. It is truly the best years, some of the most influential years of education, and it is truly an honor to be here in Hastings to help lead Farragut Middle School. So I am very much looking forward to July 1, to coming on board. I will be reaching out to the community to meet with parents and faculty and students, learn as much as I possibly can over the coming months. I can have a tremendous kickoff for the start of the 23-24 school year. So thank you all. I very much appreciate it and look forward to working with all of you. I need to say that I'm sorry. I am going to be departing just a moment. I'm actually supposed to be back in Eastchester at a Board of Education meeting, and they are holding a couple of agenda items for me. So I very much appreciate the time tonight, though, and I'm to meet all of you. So thank you, and look forward to working together.
It's okay, you're excused, Mr. Nguyen. Moving on to the next item, 3D, the review and adoption of the 2023 to 2024 emergency plans. Do I have a motion to approve the district-wide safety plan for 23 to 24?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to announcements, I think that they're listed. We're not
Yep.
going to go through them,
Correct.
correct? Okay, thank you. After public, before public or after?
I would do public comments first.
Okay. All right, we're switching up the order a little bit to expedite people who are staying here. Yeah, I'd like to do the public comment first. Is there anybody who would like to make a public comment? Could you please state your name and address?
Susan Patricia Cooper, 378 Warburton Avenue, Hastings. The first week of June, I was approved by the town of Greenberg for the senior citizens exemption, and that applies to the county, town, village, and schools if they have approved that exemption for the schools. For people making $0 up to $58,000. I fall in the range of that, although I have been working since the late 80s in hospitals. I'm an artist. I've worked on locked psychiatric units, centers. I worked all through the pandemic in person in the COVID hospital. I do not have a pension. I contribute to my retirement through my paycheck, which is a 403B. And many of us do, and will likely be working far past 70. So congratulations to people that have retired that have those benefits. But I have a lot of trouble understanding why that isn't comprehended to the degree that there would be a 15% exemption applied to taxes for seniors in this area. I know people who are 70, they're still working. They had to start collecting Social Security. They have a home. They won't be able to stay in that home. I think there is a factor here of diversity, inclusiveness. Superintendent, you like the term rigor and compassion. I think compassion applies to this situation. So I don't understand where people are supposed to go. Are we supposed to leave? Is that from the Board of Ed, the superintendent? You know, I emailed each of you on the board when I found this, I had the approval. I received a response from the beginning of June. I left a phone message, no response. I emailed the superintendent. I called the secretary. There's been no response. I have no understanding. If I did that at my job, that would be it. Really. I would like to know why I have not received a response and why this is taking place. When I went to the assessor's office, they were very, very apologetic, embarrassed, as a matter of fact. And they said, well, yes, some school districts had opted in, and Hastings is one of them. Dobbs Ferry did not initially opt in, but they changed course because it is embarrassing. So, I guess with that, I really wonder, are the schools part of the community? Or is the community part of the schools? There's a big difference. I'm sorry? My time is up. Yes, well, it will be in any number of years. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Does anybody else have, is there any more public comment?
Right there.
Oh, please come up. Can you please state your name and address, please?
My name and what?
And address.
Address? Okay. And you want me to write here?
No, you just have to say it out loud so she can put it in the records. Yeah.
Samadi Poi. Address?
Yes.
405 Warburton Avenue. Thank you. I think that you should have current events for all of middle school because it stops at 5th grade, and that's not really fair because because you should know what's happening currently, because half of the things that I know that are happening currently I would have not known, like certain wars that are happening and like natural disasters that are happening in different countries. So I also think that a 6th grader should have tech because most things right now are robots and like tech. So how would we know about it? And when you have it in 7th grade, you have to refresh your brain completely. And then lunch should be longer because if lunch is 20 minutes long, kids have to throw away most of their lunch. And there's a bunch of signs in the cafeteria that say love food, not waste food. So how can we eat all our lunch in 20 minutes? And then also, I believe you guys stopped this, but you used to have bathroom passes. You used to have to sign into the bathroom, and we have to do that at most classes. And it's become really inconvenient because it takes you a while to write your name and I think something else, your classroom number. And it's a really big headache when you wanted to go to the bathroom real quick. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comment. We can't actually, we don't comment on public comment here, but I just want to say that I very much appreciate your thoughts, and we really are listening, and many of your points are well taken, so thank you for giving them. Okay, I'm going to move to, if it's okay, the personnel. What's that? I know. I think we're gonna go to we're gonna go there, vote, and then go to the student report. Okay. Because otherwise people are reading. So first, I just want to go to point number 10. Sorry for the skipping around. For resignations, do I have a motion to approve the resignations on 10A?
So moved.
I don't think it's 10A, right?
We changed the order. Oh, okay. So resignations is 10A.
You want to refresh your page?
Yeah, can you refresh? I refreshed. What's the first one then? Sorry. Mine still says that resignations.
No, that's correct.
Oh.
Resignation, retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I said. Do I have a motion to approve the resignations?
No, we should go through it.
I know, but I think we have to do them separately.
I would think so.
So the first one we want to approve is resignations. Do I have a motion to approve the resignations in 10A?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, for 10B, retirements, do I have a motion to approve the retirement and 10B?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, C, 10C, do I have a motion to approve the appointments in 10C?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then third, do I have a motion to approve the 10B, the leaves of absence?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's a good thing this is our last meeting of the year. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Can I just
Yep.
say
Yes,
a
please,
quick
thank you.
comment? So anyone reading closely, anyone reading an hour ago and then reading now, we'll see a different agenda. I just want to acknowledge Lou DiPietro, who's out here in the audience, who you will see listed under retirement. Lou has spent a very long career with the district, an illustrious career, a very successful career. So Lou is retiring, and Lou has also agreed to come back for a year as I don't know what the official title is, but the principal essentially for next year. So we want to thank Lou for agreeing to come back for a year after his retirement. So it's kind of retirement without a retirement right now, but nonetheless an official retirement. So just want to acknowledge that, Lou, and there'll be more to come in the year to come, but just want to, in this interim year, acknowledge you because people will be reading that on board docs. So thank you.
And if I may add, there's a communication that will go out almost immediately because there's such significant news. Lou, could you stand up? So I really want you to stand up, sir. So there's a communication going out from me, but most importantly is a link from a letter that Lou has written to the entire community about a decision that I know for Lou is incredibly heartfelt. He and I have been talking about this for a while. He came to me saying that he's eligible for retirement, but he doesn't want to leave the Hastings district, a district he loves so much. And I'm looking Lou in the eye, so you know there are no notes on this one, sir. That you love so much, your family does, and you said you're committed to a year to help us get to a better place with making sure that we get to a better place even with you gone. And so that's your commitment to us as a district. It's rare that a district for such a great high school has a year to plan for the departure of an essential leader. And I want to thank you for your leadership on this and working with us on this. So yeah, it's a resignation for retirement, but we're going to be leaning on you just as much as we have for the coming year and looking for your guidance and help at each step of the way. So it's from my heart to you, Lou.
I appreciate it, everyone up here. It's been 18 years. I started as an assistant principal back in 2005, and, you know, became the principal under unfortunate circumstances. If you remember Tom Fazio died of lung cancer in January of 2009, and I was interim principal then for half a year and went through the process and was eventually named principal. Since then, you know, my son is a teacher in the middle school. My wife is the middle school guidance secretary, and I've said this before. I sleep in Yonkers, but I live in Hastings, and this is my community. I look at our students here. It's tough for me, but it's time. It's time for me to move on, but I would never leave this district in a place where they are scrambling to find the next leader of the high school. I think we owe it to what I believe is a legacy that I left behind, and I will leave the school in a good place, that we owe it to the next person, that we do a thorough search. We owe it to this community. We owe it to the students here. But I will work tirelessly for the next year. You don't have to worry about that. To Doug's point, interim is just a title. This is my school. It'll be my school until June 30th. of 2024. And that's a promise that I make. And I said to Dr. McCursey, I will be part of that transition as much as you want me to be part of that transition. I will understand if you don't want me to be part of that transition. And we'll talk about that. But I want people to come in eyes wide open, and leverage my 18 years that I've been here, which will be 19 at the end of next year. So I thank you all for acting on it. I appreciate it. But this is my home. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Lou. I'm glad you're staying here for 1 year of my daughter's high school, so thanks for that. And I'm sure you're going to be a great mentor to Mr. Nguyen. I know you will, so we really appreciate that as well. Thank you. And you can still have cake next year for retirement. That's no problem. Okay, now moving back to our regularly scheduled program, we're going to move to item number 4, which is the student report.
Hey, Ms. Gorman, before you go, just hold on a sec. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, good. I just want to make sure. Well, while we're waiting for Ms. Gorman, Mr. Wright, the school is going to be your school a lot long past June 24th of next year, or June 30th. You are Hastings High School. I can't imagine it without you. I think Eliana and Kai will feel the same way. I really don't want you to go. So if you guys can figure out a way to have him do an interim, post-interim retirement, that'd probably be good for all of us. But thank you, Mr. A. It's really sad, and I'm happy you're staying for another year. As far as his retirement, Mr. Rubino left. We were going to say something for him, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Ms. Gorman. Seriously. I always have a hard time with change. I'm having a hard time now thinking about college, but for my first maybe month or 2 months of elementary school, we moved from Brooklyn like everyone else. And I was having a really, really hard time. I'd be crying every day before school, and my dad would follow the bus to school every day, and he'd sit with me because I was so nervous to go into school. And I think probably from the maybe second day onward, Ms. Gorman would sit with us. And after maybe a month or so, then I started feeling comfortable enough. My dad wouldn't follow the bus, and the bus would come, and I'd sit with Ms. Gorman. And eventually I was comfortable enough to go out to morning recess and play. But it's because of Ms. Gorman that I've loved coming to school, and I still love coming to school. And I really, truly don't think I'd be here if it wasn't for her. So thank you, Ms. Gorman.
Oh, so sweet.
And I know Mr. Rubino stepped out, but I still have to say something. To the students, at least me, I call him just Bino, Beans too. He's a teacher that you can always come to if you ever need anything. He is a light that the school will definitely miss. I know sometimes I visit him when I probably shouldn't, when I should be in other classes, because he's always there to just crack a joke and make you smile. So he'll deeply be missed. I know he's not here, but I want to say thank you again. And now we'll transition into the actual student report. So on Monday the 12th, which feels like centuries ago at this point, the seniors came into the high school to do presentations on their internships. They presented to classes in the high school on the highlights of their internships, as well as what they've learned, while also giving some advice to students that will have to choose their internships in the future. And the past 2 weeks have been finals in the high school, so students have been coming in for their tests, for their final exams, for regents. But I know everyone's very excited for summer, but also excited for the year to come.
I'm not even sure I need to say anything more, because I think we got a student back there that covered a lot of it. But there's really two big things. We found out who won those Metro Awards, and because there were a couple nominations. Spoiler alert, one of them's sitting right next to me. So Eliana Carvalho won the Most Outstanding Female Identifying Comedic Performer, and Emma Gelman, who's also a junior, won the award for graphic design based on what she did for the Play-Doh. So these are some pretty prestigious awards at 56 different high schools the 4 counties around us that compete for them. So it's an enormous accomplishment, and it goes to show not just the strength of those 2 individuals' artistic talents, it also goes to show that we have a really, really strong program here. And the fact that we keep winning these goes to show that it's going strong, and it's a real testament to not just the dedication of you guys, but of the staff and administration and all the community members that make this theater program possible. So it's really, really exciting. As for other news, graduation is on Thursday, which is nuts. Weather forecast is looking a little bit iffy, but even if it's in the gym, I think it'll be a really good time. We're gonna have some. It's gonna be. It's the culminating event for the seniors. So please, anyone who's listening, you guys, I think you guys have to be there, right?
Have to be there. I have a kid graduating. I might be there. I might be there for him.
I think that's a big thing. And oh yeah, Kai's here. So Kai Dirksen is going to be our next student liaison. They are going to be taking my place, and you guys are upgrading up. Kai has a diverse set of experiences that I think will do a great job complementing what Eliana brings. So Kai is an instructor at the Broadway Training Center. They're a teaching assistant at Temple Beth Shalom, and they actually work at the Refill Room, which is a small business downtown. It's a really diverse, broad set of experiences, and I think it'll bring you guys some interesting insights on what's going on with the student body. So you should be excited to hear from Kai next year. They're also incredibly articulate. That is my last piece of news. I kind of said it before, but thank you again for having me this past 2 years. It's been an honor.
And welcome, Kai. I don't know if you've watched any of our meetings, but they go late, so I hope you're a night owl. Welcome. Thank you for agreeing to join us. And I know that Gus really has teed up Eliana, so I'm sure that she'll be a great mentor to you as well. Okay, moving on. Okay, report from superintendent. Did you have any comments?
It's all in writing,
Yeah.
in the spirit of us moving ahead.
Great.
Please read it, but it's all in writing.
Right. Okay, moving on to item 7, administrative reports. Report from the Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum Instruction.
Also in writing.
Great, thank you. So let's move on to our presentations. We've got 2 great presentations tonight. Very excited for both of them. The first is on the Special Education Advisory Committee.
Yeah, I think it might just be better. Maybe you guys just want to come up. All right. So, all right, we're good. So first, I would like to give a shout out to our juniors within our special education department. I believe they all passed their U.S. history regents. So kudos to them, and give them a round of applause. So before we get into in depth with the presentation, I just want to sort of paint the picture of the amount of work in order for us to make this happen, and it's a lot of good work. So, just for those that don't know, within the district you have Bill, Melissa, Maureen, and under that, we have our special education administration department. When we cut that onion a little bit deeper, we have 3 administrative assistants that help get every single nook and cranny of this ship running. Teresa, Beth, Maureen, they help to get all of that work done. We go a little deeper, we have a partnership with our principals. So in order for any of this to work, our principals had to be fully supportive and buying, and they did a great job in helping to get this work done. We go a little surface level deeper than that, we have our teachers and teachers' assistants, and they are on the feet. So I can't in any aspect take any full credit for any of this work. I look at myself sort of as a curator to bring all these wonderful artists together and these scientists, and they are the ones that are fully leading this work. And cut one more surface level deeper than that, we have our community. And without any of these parties, we could not make an inch off the ground to make sure that any of this work is getting done. And you're going to see some of the
great things that we've done and some of the great things that are upcoming. And I think right now we're sort of at a nexus point where we can make a lot of significant change if we keep this momentum going, and hopefully after you hear this presentation, you'll see some of the momentum that we want to really, really have in place. So we were last here, and my team got a little bit bigger, and they're presenting with us, but you know, a good chunk of us was here last year, in last October. I should say October 2022, but not 23, but that's all right. And we gave you an overall view of where we're at. So since October of 2022, we've met more times, and we sort of have an idea of where our ship's going. So now we can see the end zone, right? So we're not at the end zone, but we could definitely see where we're going. And we're going to talk about what we're going to do into the summer and how that segues into a larger picture of our timeline.
So on the committee, we have a really wide array of people that contributed and are at every single meeting. Everybody from administrators to teachers, general ed, special ed, parents. We even met with students in small focus groups, so it's been really great to have such a diverse amount of opinions and perspectives on any topic that we discuss.
So just to give a quick overview of some of the data and some of the work we've done all together. So when we started the committee, we did our data review. We looked at our urban collaborative report, we looked at inclusive schooling, we looked at New York State data, we looked at panorama data, we looked at IEP data, we looked at articles on research or practice, we looked at peer-reviewed journal-based articles, and we did a lot of research. In addition to that, we did site visits. We went locally, we went to Bronxville, went to Henhud, we went to Irvington, we went to Ardsley, we went to Westchester Institute for Children, Mayapack Falls, we went to Eagle Hill, we spoke to administrators in Eagle Hill, in Windward, in all of these schools. So we want to have a robust, different perspectives of what special education looks like across various demographics, various locations, various settings, so we could turnkey that information into what works well for them, but most importantly, what's going to work best for us here. The key piece of information that we did was our focus group. Because everything we do is in benefit for the children here. Everything we do is in planning for them, in trying to make better outcomes for them. So we said, hey, let's speak directly to the people in a very clear language that they could understand. And some of the information they turned to us, you know, we think it can be the linchpin of getting some of this work done.
So we spoke with students, I believe starting in 7th grade, 6th grade, sorry. So 6th grade, and we met through students up to 11th grade. So when we had these conversations, we asked them a lot of different questions, just kind of about what their take on their experience has been so far. And obviously some of their experiences are longer than others. These were some of the quotes that we took out that we thought were either striking, maybe some of them a little jarring, some of them exciting. So the first one being, my parents do not understand the IEP process or school in general. And we put a star there because when Tesfa and I were discussing this conversation later on, we were reflecting on it, we recognized that both of those students were students whose parents' English was not their first language. So just a point to also take into consideration when thinking about that, but I think this also applies to students whose parents do speak English as a first language. They might not understand the IEP process. I don't feel comfortable asking teachers for my accommodations. I don't really feel some of my teachers read or understand my IEP. This one was exciting. Well, the first part was exciting. I started to come to my CSE meetings when I felt I was ready to start advocating for myself, but sometimes I'm not sure what's going on. So we're talking a lot about that and how we could make students feel better prepared for a CSE meeting. I've known about my IEP since about 5th grade. We've been talking a lot about that, when it's appropriate for students to be part of the process and how we can build that in an age-appropriate way. And I think some of my teachers know my IEP pretty well, so that was exciting. So kind of varied opinions and ideas about their IEP and about school in general, but some obvious things that we'll continue to talk about and work on. Sorry.
I'd love to say that it was an honor to serve on this committee for special education this year. We have all been collaborating and using our skills, strategies, and the data we've amassed throughout the years as educators. What makes our committee so special is that by meeting together to share our knowledge, we are able to bring it all to all of our schools, vertically, K through 12. We can build on and expand an even more awesome learning environment for all our learners and educators. We, as human beings, strive from birth through life to optimize our algorithms. From that point of view, life is math. Math is life. We start out needing so much assistance, but as we progress from dependence to independence, we optimize our algorithms, our problem-solving skills. We adjust to every challenge with a set of skills taught and learned. What we have done as a committee is to identify that not only our students need all kinds of assistance with their challenges throughout their school and professional lives, but that we as adults are here to enable and empower and cheerlead our children to face life with optimism and ownership. We can improve our confidence as educators in meeting the needs of our students and understanding we all have learning challenges. I'm a firm believer that every setback is a setup for a comeback. To this end, we have identified meaningful and targeted professional development opportunities that allow for incorporating our work into our classrooms to support our students in a positive and meaningful way. Learning to accept ourselves while we're in the process of changing. We all have areas we need to improve. We must instill in our children we're not supposed to go around down on ourselves because we haven't arrived. We may not be perfect. We all have to remember we're growing, we're making progress. Once again, optimism and ownership. On a personal note, one of my identified children had a rough go of it from Hillside through FMS, but upon arriving at high school, something clicked. He became engaged and interested in the why it was so hard for him to learn and feel successful. What happened to him was a culmination of strategies that all his educators participated in throughout his school year, career. Patience was key, and we should all remember that. He eventually, and I think you all met him tonight, majored in both physics and applied mathematics and won a NASA scholarship in a physics competition held at Montana State University in Bozeman. But all my children have a strong foundation, and I owe it to this amazing school district for caring about every single student, because what we did then and continue to do now on this committee is to build and carry on a tradition of excellence that we can all be proud of and that our children will take with them into their adult lives.
That was real dope. That was good. All right. We didn't plan that. So our committee purpose, I think Adele just encapsulated the entire purpose of our committee, right? So we want to look at the key challenges that our kids with IEPs are facing, and we want to empower them, right? And we want to improve our own confidence in meeting the needs of all students with IEPs and students with disabilities in general. I'll say this, and this is like the analogy I always use. If I had a magic wand, right, and student A with dyslexia walks into general education class B, and teacher C is in there, I would like, at the end of our committee's purpose, and it's ongoing, but let's say at a certain point in time, for that teacher to feel confident to say, you know what, I got this. The dyslexia, whatever disability, does not intimidate me. And that's all right if we're intimidated by it. And if you can't figure it out, at least that said teacher could say, you know what, hey, I might not have the tools I need, but I know how to refer to get that child whatever help they need. That is the end point of our committee's purpose at this moment. So we had our theory of action. The last time we met, we discussed self-efficacy, and that is the key concept of what we want to do. And this is both for the students and our faculty, but primarily for the students. We want them to understand what their strengths are, also what they need help with, and we also want them to understand success looks different on so many levels. Success for me is going to look different than success for Erin, Emily, Adele. Everybody's success is going to look different. And if students have that own internal self-efficacy, if they have the belief in their abilities, then they could achieve whatever they want. And the key to that, to turn back to what we were speaking about earlier, it's about them understanding their IEPs. It's about them understanding themselves. Earlier they understand of, hey, I have an IEP. This is what I'm very good at. This is what I need support with. This is how I could articulate it. This is how I could advocate to say, hey, I need extra time. Hey, I need a copy of the class notes. Whatever they need is what we want to empower them to become better learners. So that's the textbook definition of self-efficacy, if anybody wants to read it. But it's that internal belief in yourself to understand, all right, I don't look at problems as concerns. I look at problems as challenges, and I could overcome them.
So at recent faculty meetings for all 3 buildings, we had representatives give a presentation very similar to this, just update the faculty on what we've done so far and kind of give a glimpse into the future of what we'd like to do. So we gave each of the faculties this really quick Google form, and the gist of it is we want to be able to provide faculty with meaningful professional development. So if we have to sit through something to, become better teachers, what do they actually want to learn about, and what areas of special education do they want improvement with? So here's just some of the feedback that we got from the teachers. And when I went through a lot of the results, it was kind of exactly what I was thinking as I was making the Google form, or what I would have filled out just for myself. So some of the standouts, a lot was about helping our students with ADD and ADHD. I think that's definitely on the rise. So how do we meet the needs of those learners in various learning environments? Understanding the actual IEP. So what does an IEP mean? What are all the jargon in it? And then specifically the accommodations and modifications. So how do we make that work in a classroom? So for example, I teach health and physical education in the high school, and I could have a student in back-to-back blocks in 2 entirely different settings, right? So a student in the gym where they're not in a desk, they're moving around, take that same accommodation, and then I have to make it work in a classroom where they're sitting in a seat and trying to learn, right? So like, how do we make individual accommodations and modifications work in various learning environments? And then the last one on this slide that really jumped out to me was the middle one, that teachers want more training towards students who are struggling socially or emotionally. And that stood out because that might not be a student that has a 504 or an IEP, but through different professional development, hopefully we can, learn how to meet a lot of different needs of our students. And I think a lot of us are seeing that on the rise as well. So just, you have a lot of different aspects of students in your classrooms, and what can we best do to meet all of their needs.
So we gave, on the questionnaire, we gave some choices. So we wanted to kind of highlight what the top percentages were of choices for the answers to this question. Which area do you feel you want to continue your professional learning journey in data analysis with regards to students with disabilities? So interestingly enough, about half of the faculty and staff chose differentiating for students, so kind of like what Emily was talking about in her situations, in her classrooms, and of course in a larger setting, both general education setting and special education setting. So 50% of us chose that. And then similarly, but a little bit more specific, chose implementing program modifications. So looking at the IEP specifically and how you can in best practice implement program modifications that a student might have, and how we can kind of face challenges that might present to us in a larger class setting. Best practices for working with students with disabilities. I believe personally that just means best practices for teaching in general. But of course, obviously we're looking specifically at our special education population. And I thought this was interesting to include, even though it was a little bit less of a percentage, because we're seeing such a rise in social emotional supports for our students. So I thought it was of note to mention that so many of our faculty and staff would like to continue their professional learning in social emotional supports for our students. Okay, so I don't know if you want to speak to the action plan a bit, but this was this is a document if anyone would like to look at this in kind of more detail. But I think Tess was going to kind of speak to the highlights of it.
So if you do click on the link or take a picture, Erin did a great job of designing the QR code. You can look at our action plan. So what we did, we mapped out, this is all throughout the entire process. We mapped out specific action steps. We focused on the why. We talked about the resources we would need. We developed a timeline, and I would put the caveat out there that timeline is very tentative. You know, we would like to hold ourselves accountable to a timeline, but we understand that things happen, school happens, and we have to really, you know, map out, this is best case scenario with our timeline. Our success metrics of how we want to measure success and how we're going to evaluate the entire program. So Melissa, if you scroll down, you'll see, and I'll talk about it when we go back to the slide, but we focused on academic areas as well as social emotional areas. And everybody can read this at their own leisure when they get a chance. But just a quick preview of, this is encapsulating, I would say, about a year's worth of work in about 12 pages of information. And I could speak to it on a very literal level on the next slide, but just to give everybody more of the academic jargon and visual. And I'll also explain some of the recent work that we planned for the summer as well. If you can go back to the presentation, just have it all on a nice clean slide for everybody. All right. Does it still work? Okay. So we mapped out 4 academic goals, and Adele, you're gonna come up. Go ahead. I don't want to. No, you got it. You got it. Sure. We'll do it together. Come on. We do it together. All right. So we mapped out 4 academic goals and 5 social emotional goals, and I'll have Adele speak to that. Then I'll.
Well, I'm going to go for the social emotional goals, and which I just said for slide 6, which was the purpose of our committee. We're introducing restorative circles. And goal 2 would be to enhance faculty confidence in working with students with IEPs. Yes, I'm reading this because I only prepared for slide 6, not for 14. But the SEL goal number 3 is enhance ownership of all students regardless of classification status. And goal 4, to cultivate student ownership and confidence. And as I said, it's ownership and optimism. And goal 5 would be to help students find opportunities for success, which we are incredibly committed to.
Just a note for goal 1 on the social emotional aspect, that is tied in more with the work of the portrait committee. So we will partner with them, but the meat and potatoes and the granular work will be done in the portrait and not so much with our committee, but it's still interconnected, and we thought that it was important to note. Goal 4 and goal 5 in the social emotional, and I'll speak to the academic in a minute, but the aspect of cultivating student ownership and how to find how to help students find their own opportunities for success, that is something we really, really spoke about on a very deep level within the committee. And I know, Amanda, you want to speak to some of the stuff that we sort of brainstormed together.
Yes, so in the last couple of months, the last year, we've been really stepping in, diving into a bunch of stuff, and we separated into 2 different groups, academic and social emotional, and then we would kind of ping pong and look at each other's work as we kept on going. But regarding the social emotional, I think it's really important to kind of point out and look at it in a more realistic level of the actual student, right, and how we are building community for our students. And this is a whole, right, as a whole, but in regards to special education, providing opportunities where kids can find their peers, find their success, right? And in doing that, being able to then have confidence, right? With confidence, so many more things can be achieved. And often most of our children are working on some deficits, right? As Adele said, deficits can be our superpowers, right? Our strengths, but we have to know how to utilize that. And I think something that we really need to know, and I think this has been a big kind of year for looking at this, is how we all can work as a community as a whole, right? We're not separating people, and where people, especially our group, can find peers, right? Where they can find their people and then find success.
So I'm going to go backwards with their academic goals. So our goal, academic goal 4, we want to make sure we have provide professional learning around the use of data for instruction for internal and external expertise. That's going to segue to our summer work, but I'm just going to go through the rest of the goals. We want to identify areas of successful data, analyze and use them to successfully inform our practice. We're going to use data to inform our programming and dedicate time for data analysis and assessment design. So our academic focus is heavily reliant on data, and in the summer, we're going to go district-wide, but we're going to separate by school. From elementary, middle, and high school, we're going to work one day each in the summer and then one day district-wide in October, working with PNW BOCES to look at how we can analyze and interpret data on a more academic level. That is going to be the first wave or the first focus of the work that we're going to do as a committee. Melissa has done a wonderful job of helping us accumulate the data. We're going to look at behavioral data, academic data, and attendance data and see how we can use that data to drive our instruction moving forward. So hopefully sometime in the fall, we can give you an update on see how that work went. But we want to be better data miners. We want to understand data. We want to be proficient with data. We want to be comfortable with data. And data is not a 4-letter word. It is a key tool to drive instruction. Anything is data, anecdotal data, qualitative data, quantitative data. We want to understand, live, breathe, and digest data. That is going to be the heavy emphasis of our work at this juncture. Other than that, I will say, and I want to thank every single member of the committee. You know, in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good soldier, and me working hands-on with everybody in the committee has helped improve my leadership tenfold, and I want to thank all of you that are here and those that are not here. You have done a wonderful job, and I sincerely mean it. I've been in this district close to 6 years, and as far as working in unison with people for a common goal, there's some real momentum now, right? So it's up to us, board, staff, everybody, if we really want to make a dent in this work. So we're at a good place now. People are working together. People want to do the work. It's up to us to really try to push through and really work hand in hand and in tandem together to make this work done, to make this work successful. So like I said, I have to thank every single person on this committee. The board has been super supportive. Bill, Melissa, Maureen has been paying people and feeding people, so you know that's a good thing. And like I said, this is my thank you as a leader because, you know, you guys have led me as well, and you guys are doing this for the children. We all are. So in closing, Adele, we want to wish you a happy retirement.
That's your Google picture.
Yeah.
I know. Well, you can see me in person.
All right.
But I've just had the time of my life serving on this committee, and I felt it was really important. And I can't say how special it is that everyone in the community has input, because any one of you on the board, I've known your children, Gus, Eliana, Kai, you remember me, I remember you. Wait, that sounds like a song. But I'm gonna just say that it means the world to be involved, to make our futures brighter through our students. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all the kind words that were said this evening. I will miss you terribly. Feel free to call on me anytime for anything, but it is the right time, and I'm so proud to stand here and look at the three of you giving back to your community because of what we've done from K through 12. So thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Can I just say one thing? having, Siri thinks I'm talking to him. So I've been around this work for a long time, Dr. Katzman, and I came on the board when there was, a lot of challenges and consternation in the district around special ed for a variety of reasons we don't have to go into. And I think it's real easy to get special ed right theoretically and academically. We kind of all know what has to happen, but to get it right pragmatically and collaboratively and to actually be able to execute it is hard work, as you all know. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you. And I know there's 4 of you standing here as part of the committee, but there's so many more people behind you. And just really want to say thank you for taking the time and the energy to do this, challenging, complex work. We see you and we really appreciate it. So thank you.
I would like to echo a lot of what my colleague here has said, Doug has said. And for me, the window to Hastings schools was through special ed, and it still is, because that's all I know. And you guys are incredible. I mean, you're incredible, and I know that. And I see, oh my God, I'm not emotional. I fell in love with Hastings because of the special ed teachers. We did not want to come here. We did not want to bring Milo here. But it was like you were forcing us, literally. I mean, I don't know who does that. It's more work, come on. And so, and it's you see it, like you see it with every one of the teachers that we engage with. You know that. It's just so much joy. And thank you for being the teachers that really care. And I really want to thank you for that.
So I would just like to recognize and thank the entire Special Education Committee. It has been a long journey. It has been a labor of love, and we're still yet at the beginning, even though we're at the draft endpoint of our planning process, and I really couldn't be prouder. I feel like this group has been so collaborative and so inclusive and really modeling the values of what we're hoping to cultivate in our learners, and I just can't thank you enough. And the improvement science process, the willingness of folks to roll up their sleeves and actually read through lots of peer review research and get to the bottom of which way we should go into our academic goals, social emotional learning goals, has just really been joyful, and it's been something that's made me very proud. So thanks to all of you, Laura, Tesfa, Mariangela, for your leadership, the entire committee for your leadership, because it's the next tier. And we'll do our pilot this summer. We'll get some feedback. And then I look forward to all of the great ripple effects and starting the next layer of our action goals. So I just really want to say thank you. Adele, from the bottom of my heart, I will miss you. And your love for dark chocolate like mine is only surpassed by your love of children. So thank you.
Let me add, are you going to?
I was just going to make a comment on the presentation. I was very happy to see that presentation. I can tell, just how far you guys have come, how thoughtful you are. It's almost like a curriculum review cycle for special ed. That's what it reminds me of. And the fact that you're doing all these, I always say, never start from scratch. Always look to what best practices are. I'm thrilled that you're going to other school districts and looking at what other schools are doing. I mean, it seems like amazing work. And I'm really, really, really glad that you had the focus groups with the kids. Because it's really as adults, we can think we know what we're doing, but when you hear from the kids directly, I mean, it's amazing. Thank you for doing that. I'm so glad that you put that in place, and really thrilled and can't wait to see what happens with special ed. So thank you so much for all your hard work and for the parents' hard work too. I know about donating time for good causes, so I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
And let me just say a couple of things. You really set a standard here. Because you've got the nice PowerPoint, which looks good, and all the rest, and you've got Adele Gorman's photo in there, and that's wonderful. But the link into the chart is that really grounds us. It's this sense of what I know the board's been asking for. Any board I've been with has always asked for what you've produced here in this chart. Now, of course, we've got to deliver on it, as Tesfa said, But this is a model. And the other thing here is some of us around the region went to hear Professor Michelle Fine speak about 4 weeks ago, supers from all over, tri-state. And she said, stop looking outside, look inside for the wisdom. The wisdom is in your districts. And when you keep going outside, the wisdom inside goes, don't ignore me. So the wisdom here from the start was to say there were reports from the outside, but how do we look at ourselves? So you've shown what a professor like Michelle Fine has said, look within. The wisdom's there, so thank you. And again, you've set a standard for us going forward. Thank you.
Just in closing, just for future committees or future work, you know, none of this, the key to all of this work is relationships, right? So I had to depend on my relationships with people to make them want to do this work. And I would give my little breadcrumb for the children or just for the adults when you're doing this work. Be nice to each other, right? Because you need to have strong relationships to get work done. So hopefully moving forward as a district, we could all be nice to each other and we could get some work done. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the next agenda item is something very exciting that we're all looking forward to seeing. Future steps of our class of 2023, the culmination of all of our teachers, admins, assistants, everybody's hard work, where our class graduates and where are they going to go.
Thank you, everyone. First, I'm going to say that's going to be a hard act to follow. But prior to the numbers presentation, I do want to echo that this numbers presentation would not be possible without their work, without all the teachers, the parents, the students, you guys, the community members, the support staff. I can go on and on. This is just a small slice of what you see when you're talking about Hastings kids and what it is that they're doing. And then when we move forward 4 years or 5 years in the future and we see what you guys are doing, because you do come back, and I say please always come back, it's just some amazing stuff. It's just always jaw-dropping. So I don't know. I get all warm and fuzzy. So, okay. Is this me? Yes. All right. There we go. Okay. So some numbers. So we had a little bit of an uptick in seniors this year from last year. Last year we had 125. This year we have 139. So some of those numbers are a little bit different simply because we do have a few more student bodies. Attending colleges. I broke it down last year in a similar way. So this year I kept with the same format. Our public in-state students are 27, so that is up quite a bit from last year. We had 15 from last year. We have 27 this year. So we had a lot of public in-state, more students accepting and going in that direction. Private in-state was just a very slight increase. This was only by 2, so that pretty much stayed the same. Our public out-of-state, 30 students, it was only difference of 1, so that pretty much stayed the same. Private out-of-state students went up to 41, and that pretty much stayed the same from last year. I'm sorry, that went up from last year from 34 to 41. And our non-U.S. college, we have 1 student attending this year. Last year we had 2. We have 1 student doing gap year, has committed to a school, so that person's numbers are included in our outcomes, and they have wanted to do a gap year for next year, a student pursuing a career in a trade, going directly into work, and 4 students who are currently figuring out what they would like to do, so they're taking a little bit time off. So those are our percentages for this year. I also notated the 2-year schools because we do have 4 students that are attending public in-state 2-year with potential to move on afterwards, depending upon what it is that they choose for their professions. So, my bar charts. All right, hopefully it shows some colors that we can see here. So what I did was, we'll start with the early decision. So the first bar that says 38, those were our last year's numbers for early decision applications. Next to it, 46. So I made a comparison there. Probably should have used 2 different colors, so I'm apologizing ahead of time. So we had an increase there in early decision applications. Our early decision acceptances last year were 23, this year were 21, so pretty close. And our early decision denials were 15 last year and 24 this year. We had a number of students, small number, go into an early decision 2 round. That's also binding. It's just later in the application process. So versus having your applications due early November or mid-November, these applications would be due January 1st or 15th, and in some cases as late as February 1st. So last year we had 8 applications in, this year we had 10. Last year we had 3 acceptances, this year we had 2. And last year we had 1 denial, this year we had 7. Our early applications, we had 98 students apply, early application, early action, which means an early submit to a school, and early acceptance or not, and students do not have to say what they want to do until May 1st. So 98 students applied early action with their schools last year, this year 125, so that jumped. And regular decision, we had 116 students applying last year, this year we had 128. So as notated on the bottom for early action, about over 90% of students that applied early action were accepted to at least one of their early action schools. And under the regular decision, approximately 80% of the students that applied regular decision were accepted to at least one of their schools. I notated the applications that were submitted. Post-COVID in 2020, we had not a very large jump of students applying, so we had 134 students in the class and only 1,210 applications were written. From 2021 to 2022, we had a considerable jump, 120 less students with many more applications, as you can see. 125 students versus 1,578 applications that were written. This year, we stayed pretty comparable. We had 139 students with just slightly less than last year, applications of 1,560 that were written. I would expect that maybe in 2024, we would probably kind of hover in the same arena. And then finally, just some takeaways and some observations. So we did see, while we saw a rise in in-state school applications, public and private, since last year, we did see that. Applications to most all schools remained relatively the same. Our acceptance rates in the early decision, early action round stayed relatively the same for the past 3 years. Acceptance rates in the regular decision rounds remained also relatively the same. What we did see this year, though, was waitlist acceptances were increased slightly in this year's application pool as compared to the past 2 years. And students were hearing much sooner. I don't have numbers for you because what was happening was students were hearing and they were changing their decisions as they were entering them in, and some are still hearing. But we did see that a few more than last year were accepted much sooner in May rather than waiting through June or July or maybe even August. What will continue on for next year is many schools will continue to offer the test optional policy. They will also accept the standardized test scores if students submit. So if they choose to submit their SATs or ACTs, they will be accepted. I do want to note that in some cases, depending upon the major that the student wants to pursue, specifically business, engineering, and nursing, those standardized test scores are not optional. They're asking for them. And the thought process behind that is it is helping them to guide decisions in a way that it's verifying grades on transcripts, it's showing the competitiveness of a student and their want to go into those particular programs. And also for standardized test scores, if students do submit, depending upon the colleges, and usually the very large universities, like the Big Ten schools, they do offer scholarships. and some of them are automatic just based on your scores, depending upon what you're getting. So they're definitive cut scores. So we have seen that as well. I did want to mention this last part here. When I write essays, be your authentic self, there's something that in going to a lot of the professional development that we go to, we talk to colleges come to us. What colleges have always expressed is an essay is a time where a student can really kind of say what they want to say, talk about what they want to talk about, and their voice really comes through. That at that point, unless there's an interview, is really kind of the only way, or one of the better ways, that a college really gets to understand who a student is on a piece of paper, and that student becomes a 3D image to them. What they have been emphasizing this year more is that they really want students to be their authentic selves, not to tell them what they want to hear or what they think they want them to hear, but truly just talk about or write about things that are important to them in however manner or whatever manner they want to write it in. And I also wanted to say to future students that don't spend your time trying to figure out what a college wants, like what courses you think they want you to take or what extracurriculars you think they want you to do because it's going to look good. Really spend time figuring out what you want. There's always going to be a college that's going to support your learning and your growth as a person, because there's many out there that will. So don't try to fit into what you think a college's mold is. Make your own. And you guys can do it, and you do. I see it every day. So, questions? Gus?
This is just a numbers one?
Yes. I'll go back.
There's only one person going were you counting Canada as part of the U.S.?
Canada is not part of the U.S. Did that answer it?
Aren't there a couple kids going to McGill? Not just one?
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
Isn't there more than one kid going to McGill?
If somebody did, it was after the amount. See, that's what I'm saying. Things are evolving even as we're speaking. So if you're knowing of someone else and it's not referred up there, that may be because they've pulled in off of wait lists and everything. That's why we go after you guys with the Navion so hard and fast. For this reason.
Do you have much information on deferrals, meaning students who initially get a deferral and then get it off the wait list, like what those numbers look like?
We usually get those. Those start coming in now and next month, because what colleges usually do is they'll take their acceptances, they'll count their monies, they'll count, however many they need to. They will go to wait list, so they'll pull kids off of wait list. But I do have some deferral numbers. I didn't list them, but I can get them to you, yeah.
And for the 80% stat that was listed as the kids who got into one of their first choices for the regular decision schools, do we have any information on what happened with the other 20%? Is it just like the distribution of?
Well, it's kind of mushed in there, and I'll say why. Because some of the students that applied regular decision also applied early action, so you are getting an overlap with that. All right, so what we do is we count the actual numbers of early action students that apply. If I gave you the amount of applications, it would be a lot, because they can apply to as many as they want to, unless it's a restrictive early action. So what they'll do is they'll apply early action, so you as a student may apply to 5. I'm only counting you as 1 because you're one student body. But you're also going to be applying regular decision too. So sometimes you're going to see some of those numbers overlapping.
And so in terms of seeing the year-to-year trends, since you were able to state, they're kind of largely on trend over the past years, is that information available if you go to the high school website in terms of like what these numbers are that you shared with us, so that like if a parent was just interested in looking kind of how the numbers have fallen out, is that listed on the high school website?
I don't post this up there now.
You don't? Okay.
Do you think that would be something valuable to post?
I'm sure the anxiety of college-going students or college-applying students and parents always lends itself to kind of like trying to figure out like what they're looking at especially as they start the process.
I know it is tough. What the program will do, and again that's why we keep after them to keep on it so much, is the program will actually allow you to look at data from students that have applied to, been deferred, been waitlisted, been denied, et cetera, early, whatever it is, in comparison to other students in the school. So if you decided you wanted to apply to, let's say, Duke, you can look and compare yourself over the years of, actually we have like almost 20 years worth of data in there with how you compare as a Hastings student to Duke, not as the outside world. So you can look at that immediately. And I find that a lot of parents like to look at that. They look at the scattergrams. If you're visual, they look at that kind of thing. So, but if it's helpful, we can certainly post it. I vacillate with that as well because I don't want to create more anxiety because it can be that kind of a process.
Right.
But
No, it's more a question of curiosity. Thank you.
But you can call and we can talk.
Yes, I'm okay. I got one in. So.
Okay.
I just have a quick question.
Mhm.
I have, as you know, my daughter is in 8th grade, graduating tomorrow, right,
Mhm.
recognition.
Yay.
But already 2 family members have said to her, so got to start looking at college now, you're going to be in high school. She's like freaking out, like why are they saying that? So my question for you is, when do you start talking to the kids about this, about starting to look at schools and what that, like choosing the classes based on what they think they might want to do? I don't want to put pressure on these younger kids, but also it seems like, I mean, schools just get more and more competitive every single year. And so has your process changed about how you're talking to the kids about it, and when does it generally start?
So how we're talking has changed a little bit, yes, because we want to talk to, when we talk to freshmen, we kind of get them acclimated to high school. That's our main priority. Their grades, I mean, their courses are going to be what their courses are. They, as you saw when they went for their choosing a selection of their courses, they don't have much of a choice. There's very little choice. And when I go into the freshman classes, I explain it to them as a funnel. They start this way, and then as they grow, their funnel opens up, and they have all this breadth of, these breadth of courses that we have to offer. And we are good in that we can give them the underpinnings of what they need. So whatever they take here is just going to grow into something that they could, wherever they want to stretch themselves and whichever way they want to go. So specifically about college and freshman year, no. What we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about their extracurricular activities, staying involved in things, really thinking about the things that they love to do to stay. If they want to try something new, this is a great time to try it. You can kind of inquire about it. Get some experiences. When they get into sophomore year, we go into classes and we do vocational assessments with them, and that's when it organically starts to come out, because when they do the voc assessments, they're coming up with things that, depending upon how they're answering the questions, oh, here's some things you can look at and try. This is something that, you're saying you really like, you could migrate this into this kind of a profession. And then they're immediately, even without me or anybody saying anything, jumping like, oh, well, what school could be good for this? They might not know what they're looking at. They're hearing a lot of names out there because a lot of names do get thrown around, but they are looking and they're kind of becoming, there's a bigger awareness that comes in there. A little bit of anxiety that comes in there too, like, oh my gosh, I better step up my game, or oh my gosh, I better take this. And part of our job is to kind of say, okay, you're okay. Like this is a shopping experience. You're not going to buy the first dress you see. Well, sometimes you do. There's your ED. But you usually don't. I don't anyway. So you're going to shop around. You're going to look. You're going to see things. You're going to try things on for size. You're going to go back. You're going to look again. And it kind of will usually grow. I will say, if it's your first, then you might want to, if you're driving around, you just might want to drive through campuses. Campuses will always allow you to drive through or stop in, and they will never stop you. If it's your second or third, they may have already had the experience of going with the older, and they're in the car and they're like, oh God, I gotta look at this, but it's registering in their heads about things and what that looks like. So I would say more like around 10th grade in that way, and then it just builds from there.
Great, thank you.
Can I jump in on this one too, if you don't mind?
Please.
So, I think we have a guidance support, really applaud them for how well they keep college out of those first 2 years and even into junior year. I don't remember, my parents always say it at some meeting, it was either Mr. Ray who said it or Dr. Stevens, who's the math chair. Some parent, it was an intro math meeting and was asking questions about colleges, and either Mr. Ray or Dr. Stevens was like, no, stop. Your job is to let your kid get through high school and figure out what they want to do and what they like. This is not about college. And I think that sums up what the administration is, their idea is with college. At least those first 2 years, and I think it's incredibly successful. From all that I've seen going through this application process last year and all the people I've talked to, especially for these really competitive schools, what they want is people who really care about the extracurriculars, the sports, and the drama, and the stuff that they've been in. And the way you organically get to that authentic passion is by letting people explore, not telling them, all right, so maybe you should do like a sport and get some like job experience, because that would look really, like when that happens, and that happens in a lot of places, like I'm sure Dr. Kersey, from some of the places you worked at can attest. Like I bet Greenwich is pretty bad like that. I know like
It's a public meeting, I can't say anything.
Like we are not
Kids is
wrong
the
though, in
system.
that we are coaching kids from the time they're in 6th grade, trying to get their perfect application together. But we're really successful with college applications. You see up here. And I think the more that you let kids explore authentically, the more that's going to come. I mean, you saw those essays. It's about authenticity. The more you let people explore, the less they're thinking about college, the more authentic their experience is going to be, and the more you're going to see that translate not only into getting into prestigious schools, but getting into schools that match with what kids authentically care about. So I think we're doing a really good job.
I just, yeah, you are so right about it. I think that sometimes we want to make the parental job the student's job. If you are having anxiety, probably, like you said, drive through just and let the kids be kids. I remember we had a meeting and Mr. A said the same thing with the students' body, that it's just for them to find themselves, because again, absolutely, there's a holistic approach to college, even with scholarships and all those things. So, but I think that I'm not also diminishing that parents really want to know. Like a lot of academics is the school, people back of their mind, which college, because that shapes your career in this in the whole world, so to speak. So I think that if there could be a way, I like to look at both sides of the coin. If there could be a way where parents, not the kids, can, like you said, call me, right? But leave the kid out of it, I think that may be helpful to learn some of the strides that some parents may not even know what to do, right? And it's just, everyone is throwing it out there. Don't wait till it's too long, and they just don't want to feel like they're ill-informed. So I feel like if that opportunity is made so that the kids are again left out of the whole frenzy.
It's tough because they hear it from their peers, you're hearing it from your peers, when is too late, when is too early, and I'm going to be honest, it can be very, very different for different students, For in Gus's situation, it may not have been until junior year, and he did, pretty much, I know you did everything pretty much on your own that way. You really did. I'm not saying your parents weren't there or not involved. It was just very different than in other cases where it could be more involvement. And there's nothing wrong with involvement. It's finding the balance of how involved do you get, when the decision becomes theirs, does it become yours? How much do you hold on? How much don't you hold on? And there's no book for that. There really isn't. It's like the old saying, there's never a book on parenting. Well, there are tons of books on parenting, but everybody can come, but there's no hard yay and nay to all of that. So if she's wanting to explore something that way, then maybe, have her go visit with her and just walk along a campus and think about things like that and make it a gentler kind of, instead of, I gotta get in this kind of a thing, as best as you possibly can. Because that anxiety piece is organic. And it's okay to have a natural amount of it, but when it's up here, as sometimes we see, it becomes tough. Correct. It does. Yeah, so.
I just have one more question. Do you have any reports or data on the scholarships or financial aid that kids in the town receive?
I would love to give you financial aid, but that's usually a pretty private thing. So I'm usually not in the know of that. That really goes to parents, and we're not allowed to know any of that from schools unless a student comes in and says, hey, look, Cornell gave me $50,000. And I'm like, okay, let me I'm gonna write that down. So I can write that down. So we have some knowledge of that, but it's not anything that I would report out simply because I would be remiss in reporting information that I'm only hearing that.
Assist parents in figuring out that as well?
We can assist up to a point, and this is where we always ask for help, because we do get a financial aid individual to come in to speak to parents about financial aid, and that person will speak about the FAFSA and the CSS profile and all of those lovely forms that everybody has to fill out to get money or not to get money, or what have you. Scholarships we do a little bit better on, because we do know like what our students get locally, and sometimes they will come in and say, Tufts gave me this, or Yale gave me this, or what have you. So we can definitely get some of that out. I mean, the kids do pretty all right for the most part. Some of it's just economic based.
Yeah.
So
hard.
Yeah.
That's why we see so many in-state, probably, in-state public schools.
And I have to say, that's not a bad bang for your buck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, really.
Well, thank you so much for the report. Anybody else have any comments?
Let me, just for the board,
Thank you.
some things that Jeanette and I've talked about with Melissa is, one, the nature of work for college counselors is shifting. I mean, you can see it some here on one of the slides, just the great volume increase just here alone matches the nation, right? Going from 1,200.
Oh, the applications.
1,200 applications up to 1,500,
Right.
almost 1,600. And then also the time has shifted. It's
Mhm.
almost a year-round job now. So that's something
Mhm.
we've talked about. The other is, at some point, it'll be difficult, maybe it's through Naviance, get after what our college graduation rates are.
Mhm.
What percentage are graduating, and, now the typical number is 5 or 6 years, but within 5 or 6 years, what percent are out? Because that could be a very interesting statistic, and my hunch is could be quite a positive one for us. So that's something that we've been talking about.
Great. And if they graduated from the school they got into.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
What-
that data can be available to us, but here's what we see start happening. When they send out the surveys, they send them out every year. So the first year, the kids answer. By the second year, you're getting like 60%. By the third, you're getting like 30%. And they're trying to, and sometimes they've moved and they're trying to track them as well. So that data is not
hard
at
to get,
100%. So it's valuable for what we do get, but not, like, I wish I could track all my 140 students. Okay, where were you? What are you doing? So.
Great, well, thank you.
Okay,
Jen.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure. Okay. Melissa, do you want to? Yeah, want to take this?
Moving on to business items. Okay, congratulations to our students and our counseling office.
Thank you, Jeanette.
You want to say something?
Oh, you could.
Well, listen, I was going to dismiss our students, but they got nothing else to do because school's basically over.
I don't want to scare Kai.
But
I have some writing to do.
So, right, okay, so normally I would let you guys go at 9. I wasn't going to let you, but now I'm being peer pressured by Doug, so, so if you guys want to leave, you can leave.
It's really up to them. I just want to put it in there.
Congratulations. See you on Thursday.
They're voting with their feet. You see how fast they're going? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good summer, everyone.
Yep.
Thanks, bye.
Make sure you read your book. I'll explain.
Okay, moving on to business items. Number 9A, we have 1 through 17. Does anybody have any questions on business items 1 through 17? No? Maureen, is there anything you needed to point out for us about any of the,
No, the majority of things, much of this is things that you see at the end of this
right, that's what I thought, moving things around.
fiscal year, which is June 30th, so some of these recommendations and resolutions are kind of like standard operating procedure. It allows us, as you can see, I was pointing out those things are a little bit different than other items, but the language is specific that it's not, it's an amount up to, not necessarily those exact amounts as we're like finalizing those ledgers. These are standard for the districts with these kind of recommendations so that as we have our revenues that we see the expenditures, that allows us to put money into those reserves. So that's the only thing we can take care of that.
Thanks, that's what I thought. Great.
Everything else is standard operating.
Can you just remind us, I know we've spoken about it, but the side letter for the HAA?
Yeah, so the side letter, number 17 here is is connected to the retirement that we accepted tonight.
Mhm.
Both the HTA, that's the teacher's contract, as well as the administrator's contract, HAA, speak to a certain date in which we have to be notified in order for the individual to collect their service pay, and that date is January 15th. And as you can see today, there was some discussion. There's been some folks that have both we did this with the Teachers Association and now with the HAA, who've decided to retire, beyond, missed that January 15th date, they want to be able to
Okay, yeah.
because they have to be nurse
It's coming back to me
we
now.
had to,
Okay.
we had to open up a window in which they could submit resignation or retirement.
Get the service back. Okay.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve business items 1 through 17?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Moving on to business item B, placement and/or services for CSE and CPSE. Do I have a motion to approve business item 9B?
So moved.
10B.
Oh, it's under mine is 9B, no? Did I need to refresh again?
Not it's 10.
10B, apologies.
So moved.
So moved, okay. Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, I refreshed. Hopefully I'm still here. We have the minutes, 11, approval of minutes, correct?
Yep.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the BOE minutes of 6/6/2023?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Second public comment? We have no public?
Mr. Riss? Any
There
comments?
Mr. Riss, yes, but, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Riss. Moving on to the agenda items. Dr. McCursey, do you have any points you wanted to bring up for the agenda items?
You have run a brilliant marathon this year, Board, and you're about to graduate from your course plan, as you might recall. We named this, so two of you won't be around on the 11th, but we'll be bringing on 2 new board members at that organizational meeting. So I would note that very important, the 5-year facilities plan will be up for discussion. We may bring Doug out of retirement to listen to that. And then and then the state of the district, end of the year update, we've moved it into that meeting. It'll be largely somewhat quantitative and mostly quantitative, and it will be Melissa and my summary of the year. We gave the rest of the leadership a break on it this year, so we'll try a little different model with you as a board, but it will have some important metrics in it on both academic and behavioral information. So that's what's before you, and we will, at that organizational meeting, rough out for you something like this for next year, because I find it very useful to have us understand the flow of the work, and you also will be voting on the meeting dates and times for next year. So it's important we get that nailed down on the 11th of July.
Thank you. Board of Education comments. Does anybody have any comments on the board?
I just wanted to quickly say, since I didn't earlier on with respect to the departing Jeremy, that I didn't always agree with him. In fact, frequently disagreed with him, but I always found him to be incisive, honest, and challenging. And I think that those are all good qualities for a group so that you don't fall into groupthink. And I never doubted the commitment and the priority that he puts on the schools and serving the community well. So I thank you, Jeremy, and I'll see you at baseball.
Yes, I will also miss Jeremy for stirring the pot sometimes and definitely giving us lots to think about, and his math brain, which can just calculate unbelievably fast. I did have one recognition. Well, for all the retirees, congratulations. I wanted to give a shout out for Mr. Blum, who was not here tonight, but English teacher of many years, and I polled my daughter and her friends, and I just wanted to sort of say, given all the stress of the college prep that we heard about tonight, junior, senior year, that he was just kind of delightful, helped them with their college essays, and took a lot of the stress out of that process. I think that was a resounding theme. and gave really good life advice. It wasn't only about school. He was really funny, and everything seemed manageable, not stressful, given the environment of those years that he works with. I really think it's a great legacy to leave behind. So I wanted to give a shout out to him and all the retirees.
I have a board comment about the senior citizen that came in to speak.
I don't think we're allowed to comment on public.
You can comment on anything, yep. You can comment on anything you want.
I'm the president, I'm just trying to,
Okay,
make sure I'm doing
Press.
things right, Dr. Lang. You may proceed.
Yes, you can. I will speak for myself, but there's no way that I personally, in doing this work on the board, is looking into a way that senior citizens who are part of this place as their home to feel they are being ostracized. I've said this publicly. Yes, the public school belongs to the community and not the community to the schools. And I know I've spoken to a lot of senior citizens that have shared that concern. So Ms. Cooper is not the only person that is sharing that sentiment, and I just want to publicly say that that is being, I personally recognize it, and I'm hoping that we would look into this and see the best that we can do for our senior citizens.
I just had a couple final thoughts. I wanted to acknowledge a gentleman who's behind the camera and never gets an opportunity to be seen, but has been at every board meeting I've been at along the way. Patrick Theodule, thank you for your dedication to the district. I will miss you and our sidebar conversations throughout the years. It's been great. Thank you, Patrick. I think coming on the board, I had just a variety of different things that I thought were important, and in collaboration with many of the people here and many of the people who are not here any longer, but have had a hand in one that's coming back, and have had a hand in moving some of this stuff forward. But it was really great to see the special ed presentation tonight, and there's so much of that over the last 7 years has been the focus of our energy, and connected to that portrait of a Hastings learner, really seeing that as the core foundational driving framework. And I think so much of this change work, to have a good framework is what the key is. So thank you for everyone, and specifically Melissa for moving that forward. Just build a structured framework you're giving to these topical agendas. It seems so basic, but we've never had this until last year to really see what are we talking about. I mean, when you think of all the big conversations, sometimes it's just the most basic framework stuff that has such a powerful impact on our ability to do work. Connected to that is curriculum review. It's the same thing. Never had that framework. If we had, it wasn't when I was on the board. And I think really thinking in a very structured framework way is what helped us get the bond passed, and we've got that work, coming up again. So I think we've laid a good framework for all that. So I just want to thank, everyone here in the administration, anyone in the administration who hasn't been here, and board members, for really creating what I believe is a good foundation for us to really drive forward with a lot of good growth in the years to come. So thank you.
Thanks. And I just have, two comments. The first is, since we can comment on public comment, that I really appreciated that student coming and talking to us. And I want to ask the admin, I don't want to have a conversation about it now, but I really want us to think about this. It may seem trivial, but it's really not, in that both of my children, my children's friends, and now this student all brought up that they don't have enough time to eat at lunch. I see that when my kids come home and their food isn't eaten, and I say, why didn't you finish? And they said they didn't have time. If they have to wait in line for food for lunch, they don't get through. They have to gobble it down. I don't know what the answer is. I know that, academic time is important, but we know that food is the fuel that gets them through the second half of the day. And this is something that I've heard often over the past few years, that they just don't have time. I think it's different in the high school because there's no recess, so the eating is different. But anyway, something to consider as we look at the agenda for next year and our timing and what that looks like, that this seems to be a real issue for the kids, and I think we should address it. And then the final thing I just wanted to say was, again, thank you so much to Jeremy and Doug. I mean, I appreciate all of the work that you've done on this, in this group, and all of the insights you've given to us. Both of you are so different, and yet really dedicated so much to the school and the kids, and I just want to thank you again. Okay, anybody else? Then I'm going to, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whoa.
With authority.
With authority, wow.
And we ended before 10. Perfect.